Why do empires that look invincible suddenly crumble, while the people at the center insist everything is fine? Power doesn't collapse when enemies rise. It collapses when leaders lose the ability to see themselves. There is a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when a ruler stops learning, stops listening, and begins defending their own myth. And from that moment on, the future is no longer being built. It has already begun shrinking. No civilization, no company, no dynasty in history has survived after its leader crossed that threshold. So what is this threshold? A single predictable shift. When leaders stop adapting, they start decaying. Imagine a city built on confidence, not arrogance, just certainty. The capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire once believed it had mastered war, engineering, intimidation. For 300 years they dominated the ancient world. Kings ruled through terror, impalement, forced migrations, mountains of tribute. No one imagined Assyria could end. But a strange pattern settled inside the palace. The court stopped telling the king the truth. A monarch surrounded by fear hears only his own echo. By the time Ashurbanipal inherited the throne, Assyria thought brutality was a strategy, not a warning. He won every battle and lost the future. We remember him through library archives while his empire vanished. It wasn't enemies that killed Assyria. It was strategic blindness, a refusal to evolve. Power didn't fall. It froze. Every downfall has 3 recurring symptoms. 1. The leader believes yesterday guarantees tomorrow. 2. Dissent becomes a threat, not a resource. 3. Identity replaces awareness. Once the mind says, "We already know," the world becomes unrecognizable, and change becomes humiliating. That is how leaders lose control, not by force, but by narrative. The story they tell themselves grows louder than the world they govern. Let's shift continents. A different climate, different religion, same outcome. Mansa Musa of Mali was the wealthiest ruler in history, a fortune so vast that even myth ran out of adjectives. Gold was an assumption, prosperity was atmosphere. The empire felt automatic, but wealth has a psychological effect. It erases feedback. When everything works, the brain stops asking why. After Musa's extravagant pilgrimage, his successors inherited a system that looked guaranteed. Gold would last forever. Trade routes would stay loyal. Influence would deepen on autopilot. But no one rebuilt the mechanism. No one challenged assumptions. No one prepared for competition. Prosperity faded. Not because anyone attacked, but because they trusted momentum. A leader who trusts momentum abandons responsibility. Why does power distort perception? Because leadership alters chemistry. Attention becomes a drug. Predictability becomes identity. People stop challenging you, so you stop challenging yourself. The decline is internal first. A leader loses control when they begin treating confidence as cognition. Belief becomes evidence. Status becomes knowledge. Silence becomes agreement. And the world quietly moves on. Think of Marcus Aurelius, philosopher king, reluctant emperor, architect of stoic resilience. And yet his downfall wasn't military, economic, or strategic. It was psychological. Marcus spent decades cultivating virtue, only to hand Rome to his son Commodus, a man who demanded God status, killed senators for entertainment, and ruled from delusion. Rome didn't collapse that day, but the seed was planted. Marcus couldn't imagine the system failing after him. Even a philosopher can be blinded by lineage bias, the belief that stability is transferable. A leader can master wisdom yet fail at succession, because power is not preserved by genius, it is preserved by adaptability. So here is the unsettling question. Why does every leader believe they are the exception? Why does every ruler assume they will see decline before it reaches them? Why does every system imagine that maintenance is beneath greatness? The paradox of dominance is simple. Strength convinces itself that weakness is impossible. But weakness is always present. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. Empires end one ignored detail at a time. This isn't ancient behavior. It is human behavior. Look at the downfall of companies. Kodak invented digital photography, then ignored it. BlackBerry invented mobile email, then mocked touchscreens. Blockbuster was offered Netflix, and laughed. These weren't strategic failures. They were identity failures. Leaders believed their past insight was permanent. They didn't lose to competition. They lost to certainty. Science calls this cognitive entrenchment. When expertise calcifies, when skill becomes rigidity, when mastery becomes dogma, the brain stops imagining alternatives because alternatives threaten dignity. That is the hidden cost of success. Success makes imagination optional, but imagination is the only defense against time. Look at the 20th century. The Soviet Union looked monolithic. Nuclear arsenal, vast territory, ideological certainty. But leaders lived inside projection. Facts were filtered. Failures were edited. Reality was curated. When a system cannot tolerate contradiction, it cannot survive uncertainty. The collapse looked sudden, but it was only visible suddenly. Inside, the decay was gradual. 1 million ignored signals. Downfall always looks abrupt to the person who refused to monitor change. Strip away geography, religion, and economics, and a single psychological mechanism repeats. When leaders equate control with perception, control disappears. You cannot steer a reality you refuse to measure. You cannot improve a system you refuse to question. You cannot prevent decline by deleting data. The tragedy of leadership is this. People stop telling you what you need to know and start telling you what you want to hear. So what is the pattern that predicts downfall? Not corruption, not violence, not ignorance, but inflexibility. The end begins when the leader can no longer update the map. Adaptation is the only true intelligence. Everything else is ego. Now we return to ourselves. What do we lead? A company, a team, a household, a future. Where do we hold assumptions instead of awareness? Where do we reject feedback because it feels inconvenient? Where are we defending yesterday instead of designing tomorrow? There is a private moment every leader must confront. Do I still learn, or do I only confirm? That is the hinge. History is not a graveyard of violence. It is a graveyard of certainty. Control isn't lost through force. It is surrendered through rigidity. Empires don't fall. They refuse to evolve. And so the timeless question remains, what are we willing to update before the world updates us? If you found this exploration insightful, give this video a like, share it with a friend, and subscribe to Timeless Questions channel for more deep dives into philosophy, history, and human nature. Because the questions may be ancient, but the wisdom is timeless.